You ever feel like you're constantly running on empty because you're putting so much effort into things around the house, only to realize you've missed something crucial? See, the key is taking a moment to understand what truly matters to those around you. Trust me on this one. When you do, you'll find yourself saving both time and money, while also feeling more confident in your decisions. Now, I see men saying, "I do this, I do that, I do everything," but she never notices. He's at his wit's end. He rattles off a laundry list of his good deeds, while she mentions just one area where she feels neglected. Then it's her turn. Why do I go above and beyond? I do everything, but he doesn't even acknowledge it. It's a classic case of miscommunication. He does appreciate it, but she's left feeling unappreciated. See, understanding each other's perspectives is the real game changer here. Let me explain with this Bible passage for you in simpler terms. It's from 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, and it talks about how the different parts of a person interact. The body talks to the soul, and the soul talks to the spirit. Basically, it's asking, what makes up a person? Think about it like this. What is your husband or wife made of? Easy, right? Body, soul, and spirit. So, what do these parts need to thrive? She's got her body, which needs material things, her soul, which needs emotional support, and her spirit, which needs spiritual nourishment. Have you ever seen your partner just worn out saying, "I'm so tired. I feel like I could just disappear any moment. I can't handle this anymore." Then you start to wonder, is it the kids acting up again? It's something a lot of us can understand. She's like any other woman. She's got a body and a soul that's craving something more. The guy, maybe without realizing it, is used to responding to her physical needs. When she's upset, he might say, "What's the big deal?" But her tears tell a different story. She's not just complaining about stuff. She wants connection, love, someone to share her load, even if it's just a foot rub at the end of the day. When he brushes off her feelings as nonsense, she feels alone and unappreciated. It's not just about money and things. It's about closeness, understanding, doing things together, the heart of their relationship. Even when money's tight, his support means the world to her. It's a balancing act between handling everyday stuff and keeping their emotional bond strong. And in the middle of it all, it's easy for both of them to feel lost and overwhelmed.
In family matters, we find solutions in 3 key places: the dinner table, where material concerns are addressed; the couch, where we talk through our emotions; and the altar, where spiritual dilemmas find answers. You know, there's this saying that goes, when you're in bed, it's time to enjoy each other, not solve problems. And it's so true, right? I mean, think about it. We talk through our issues at the table, work things out on the couch, and even find resolutions at the altar. But when we hit the hay, it's time to celebrate, to cherish each other's company. Now, I know it might sound a bit fancy, but stick with me here. See, every person, whether it's your kid, your partner, your in-law, your pastor, your colleague, or even your boss, has these 3 essential parts: body, soul, and spirit. And depending on the situation, they might need a little extra care in one or more of these areas. So, the key? Communication. Yep, it's as simple as that, just talking it out. Because let's be honest, misunderstandings often happen when we don't speak up or listen closely enough. When it comes to communicating, it's important to steer clear of accusations. You see, when we start pointing fingers, saying things like, "You always do this," or "You're just like that," it can quickly turn into a back and forth exchange. It becomes like a shootout, where each person tries to defend themselves by throwing blame back at the other. It's not productive, and it can escalate things unnecessarily. Instead, let's focus on expressing ourselves without pointing fingers or assigning blame. This way, we can have a more constructive conversation where both parties feel heard and respected, Avoiding irony is crucial when it comes to understanding how people communicate, especially during those late-night debates. Imagine, in the heat of an argument, someone turns to the other and genuinely says, "You're right." It's not an invitation for a verbal showdown, it's just recognizing a different point of view. Think about how you'd react to that, considering the tone.
It's not about making things more hostile. Instead, it sparks a real desire to get where the other person is coming from. Let's steer away from being confrontational. Going deeper into the ins and outs of conversation, it's worth looking at why folks, both guys and gals, talk to each other. For guys, it's often about finding solutions, while for women, it's more about expressing and letting out emotions. Getting these basic differences can lead to smoother and more effective communication. A woman might find herself seeking advice on a matter she's already well versed in, all in the pursuit of sparking conversation. Imagine two friends catching up over coffee, one leaning in with a concerned tone. "Hey, I've got something weighing on my mind, and I really need your opinion." So the dialogue unfolds. One friend pours out her thoughts while the other listens intently, nodding and reacting at all the right cues. It's a dance of verbal and non-verbal cues, because let's face it, female communication is all about that visual connection. As the conversation winds down, the listener offers a warm farewell. "Thanks for being there for me, girl." With a smile and a sense of relief, the talker departs, muttering to herself, "I feel so much better now. I've got a plan in mind." And the beauty of it all? Not a single piece of advice was actually given. Two men meet up, and as one opens up about a problem, the other leans in, showing he's all ears. He nods along, absorbing every word, letting his friend know he's truly there for him. When it's time for advice, he doesn't jump in hastily. He takes a moment, mulling over everything his friend said. Then he speaks up, sharing his thoughts in a calm, thoughtful way, making sure his friend knows he's got his back. Before I jump into sharing my thoughts, I just want to say I hear you. You've made some really good points there, but let me offer a slightly different perspective on how we could handle things. The friend listening takes a moment, really taking in this new perspective. It hits him, showing that this conversation goes beyond just talking. It's real support and understanding being exchanged between them.
Now husband and wife are talking, and she looks worried. She tells him, "I've got this decision hanging over me, and it's really getting to me." He stays calm, but she wants his full focus, saying, "Hey, look at me when I'm talking, okay?" He nods, saying, "Honey, I'm right here, listening to every word. You can tell me what's on your mind. I'm all ears." She glances up as he watches her, trying to figure out what's bothering her. Meanwhile, she keeps looking down, lost in her thoughts. Her husband thinks about how they communicate differently, noticing how she is attracted to everything that catches her attention, a trait he attributes to the fact that she is a woman. The funny part happens at the end of her asking for advice. And what does he do? He replies with something like, "Based on what you've told me, I agree with you on these points, but here's where I think you might consider doing things differently." Can you guess what his wife's reaction might be? She might say something like, "See, this is why I sometimes hesitate to talk to you. It feels like you're always against me, never on my side." And then the guy, probably confused, responds, "But I actually agreed with most of what you said. It's about understanding how communication works, paying attention to its dynamics." It's a classic case of not understanding each other's viewpoints.
Life can really throw us some surprises, can't it? Let me put it in simpler terms with a little story. So, there's this couple who came to me all troubled. The husband, looking really upset, tells me, "I'm thinking about splitting up with my wife." I'm like, "Whoa, why such a big move?" And he says, "She's been throwing insults at me." I'm shocked, thinking, wow, that's not cool at all. But then I realize relationships are way more complicated than just words, you know? So I ask him to tell his side of the story. It appears that he was raised in a household where swearing was strongly discouraged. His parents emphasized respect in communication. He expresses to me, if she speaks in such a manner again, our relationship is finished. Understanding his frustration, I offer him some advice. Take a moment to compose yourself. Showing patience can demonstrate great strength. So I reached out to the woman to understand her perspective, and then she comes in saying, "You won't believe it. This man threatens to leave me just because I told him to go to hell." I responded, "The grace of God intervenes once again." I delved deeper to comprehend what that phrase meant to her. It turned out to be a common expression she grew up with, holding no ill intent. It was simply her way of expressing frustration. I got them both together for a serious conversation. I started off like, "All right, let's lay it out." I told him straight, "You gotta release her." He seemed surprised, like, "What do you mean?" So I made it clear. "I'm saying you need to think about splitting up, buddy." She jumped in, looking confused. "What's happening?" I stressed. "That's the point. There's an issue. Divorce is the fix." But he hesitated, asking, "But why?" I came back with, "Because if you keep pushing, she'll push back harder." Remember, her take on that word isn't the same as yours. To her, it's just a word, while to you, it's a bombshell. Either you get that, or she'll find someone new, starting with the letter F. His face turned worried, so I told him to keep going. I emphasized, "This is important. Either you get where each other is coming from, or get ready for more problems." 2 months later, fate brought us back together again. You know how it is with gossip. It's hard to resist. I approached them casually and asked, "Are you still together?" They breathed a sigh of relief and replied, "Thankfully, yes." Curiosity got the better of me, and I couldn't help but ask, "So how have things been during these past 2 months?" His response was both amusing and telling. "Well, she's told me to go to hell 3 times. With a hint of embarrassment, she quickly added, "Sorry, it slipped out unintentionally." It's moments like these that reveal the intricacies of a relationship, reminding me of the biblical story of Adam and Eve, where they were completely transparent with each other, not just physically, but emotionally and mentally as well.
In today's world, it is very common to see people putting on a facade that doesn't really show who they really are, hiding behind a mask. We often find ourselves putting up emotional walls when we should be more open and real. Now, imagine your curious 5-year-old asks about tricky stuff like sex or homosexuality. That's a tough spot for any parent or caregiver. But don't worry. There are people who are really good at helping with these talks. Like they say, teach a kid the right way to go. It's super important to pass on your values and beliefs early on, so they have a solid base before they bump into different ideas out there. This guidance is like a roadmap, shaping how they see the world. Without it, kids might struggle to make sense of conflicting ideas, leaving room for confusion or misunderstanding. It's not about dumping info too soon, but about giving kids the tools they need to handle life's twists and turns with wisdom and honesty. Following the teachings of the Bible, who exemplifies this better than believers?
Unfortunately, sometimes it seems like the devil himself does. Then your child arrives home exhibiting behavior that you find unacceptable. You try to set them straight, to show them what's right. But the stuff they're exposed to outside our home contradicts what you're trying to teach. See the problem? I remember back when a crying child just wanted a hug or some affection. But nowadays, when a kid cries, they're often handed a phone or tablet to calm them down. Have you noticed how absorbed they get in those screens? It's easy to think they're fine and occupied, but it's really just a temporary fix. As time goes on, they might even seem like they're ahead of us, figuring out their own wants and decisions better than we can. The problem here is that we often bring up big decisions when we should be talking about them casually at home. Instead of chatting about stuff like money or getting closer in the comfort of our own living rooms, we wait until we're in deep trouble. By then, we're basically strangers, not sure how to deal with the complications in our relationship. Avoiding dealing with issues up front lets them get worse like a disease, needing a miracle to fix. But if we'd faced these challenges earlier with some planning and talking openly, we'd only need our friends' support and some proactive steps to handle them. In the world I observe today, it seems that many individuals, upon reflection, choose to part ways in their marriages. Why does this happen? It's not always about being with the wrong person. Rather, it often comes down to the challenge of realizing that we might be behaving in a way that hinders a healthy relationship with the right person. The key lies in developing the maturity to comprehend these dynamics. Ultimately, it's crucial to grasp a simple truth. The more adept you become at navigating relationships, the smoother your life tends to flow. I've noticed something quite common, especially among those who have strong beliefs. There's a tendency to feel uneasy when considering that someone might not be good. This discomfort often leads them to generalize and treat everyone who enters their lives with suspicion. It's a natural reaction, but it can have significant consequences.
Over time, I've observed that individuals who used to see the good in everyone now view others with skepticism. They once opened their homes and hearts to anyone, eager to please and help, but now they're more guarded. They've withdrawn, finding themselves without friends and less inclined to lend a hand. It's a shift from trust to caution, and it impacts not just their relationships, but also their willingness to extend kindness. Let me lay it out for you. As Christians, our lives are all about being connected to others. It's like every person we meet adds something valuable to our lives, shaping who we are. Without these connections, our lives would feel pretty empty. Think about it this way. If we're only focused on saving ourselves, we're missing the whole point of being a Christian. It's not just about our own spiritual journey. It's about putting others first and serving them. When we're too caught up in our own wants, we forget what it really means to follow Christ. But when we shift our focus to helping others instead of just ourselves, something incredible happens. By working for the good of our community, we find fulfillment and joy we never knew was possible. It's like planting seeds of kindness that grow into something beautiful for everyone. So, being a Christian isn't something we do alone. It's about being part of a community and lifting each other up. Let's embrace that connection wholeheartedly, knowing that our lives are so much richer when we're serving others.
And now, as we reflect on these truths together, let's take a moment to come before the one who binds us all together in love. Let's bow our heads and lift our hearts in prayer, thanking God for the gift of community and asking for the strength to live out these principles in our daily lives. May we be empowered to embrace the connection we share in our faith journey and to help others with kindness and understanding. Dear Divine Creator, as we come before you in prayer, we are reminded of the profound wisdom contained within the experiences and challenges of human relationships. You have blessed us with the ability to love, to communicate, and to understand one another, yet often we falter in our efforts to truly connect. Today, we lift up to you the complexities of relationships, particularly those between partners, husbands and wives. Grant us the grace to see beyond our own perspectives, to truly understand the needs and desires of those we hold dear. Help us to recognize the importance of communication, not just in words, but in gestures, in listening, and in understanding. May we learn to speak from the heart, to express our emotions without fear of judgment or misunderstanding. Guide us, dear Lord, to prioritize what truly matters in our relationships. Let us not be consumed by the trivialities of daily life, but instead focus on nurturing the bonds of love, trust, and respect that unite us. Give us the strength to navigate through moments of frustration and miscommunication with patience and empathy. Help us to see beyond the surface, to delve into the depths of each other's souls, and to find common ground even in our differences. Teach us to cherish the sacred moments of connection, whether it be at the dinner table, on the couch, or at the altar. Let our conversations be filled with compassion, understanding, and mutual support, so that we may grow closer together in mind, body, and spirit. In your infinite wisdom, guide us towards greater harmony and understanding in our relationships. Grant us the courage to embrace vulnerability, the humility to admit our faults, and the wisdom to seek reconciliation and forgiveness when needed. May your divine presence be felt in every word spoken, every gesture made, and every moment shared between partners. Bless our relationships, dear Lord, and may they be a reflection of your boundless love and grace. Amen. Thank you deeply for walking alongside us until this moment. Your steadfast presence and commitment mean the world to us, beyond what words can capture. If these words have touched your heart, please share an Amen in the comments. Join us on this extraordinary journey by following our channel and becoming part of something truly meaningful. Your time, attention, and support have meant everything to us.